Hi, and welcome to our first spoiler special episode of We Needed Roads, where we're going to be taking an in-depth look at the WandaVision season finale and looking at how the events of the show impact the larger MCU. I'm your host, Neil Gregory, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, David Long. Now, for our brief trip to Westview.
Now, it should go without saying that this is going to be spoiler heavy, so if you haven't seen WandaVision, go watch it, make sure you've seen the finale, come back because we're going to be deep diving into a lot of it, and on with the show.
As we expected from the previous episode, what we got in the season finale was Wanda versus Agatha, Vision versus Vision, and of course we pretty much knew that Wanda eventually would have to say goodbye to Vision and her children once again, because she did will them into existence. Also, not forgetting Hayward tried to shoot the kids and is going to jail. And then also we get some setup for Doctor Strange too. I mean, yeah, child attempted murder is not good even in the MCU. So, what did you think of the finale then, David?
So the first half of the show, I really didn't get along with, if I'm honest. I appreciated all the homages to previous sitcoms of the past, such as like Bewitched, Malcolm in the Middle, and like Modern Family. But it just didn't grip me. It wasn't what I wanted from the show to begin with, and I think the fact that it lasted 3 episodes personally was a bit too long for me. I felt like if it would have gone on for maybe 2 episodes, but then we still had that sort of a little bit more to keep us watching, like that was going on outside of Westview, which we got sort of at the end of episode 3 and then from season 4. So for me, it was a tale of 2 halves. You had like the first half, which for me was very slow and poor, but was setting up a lot of what we were going to see from the second half of the show, which was a lot better. And the finale definitely, it did land for me. It wasn't 100% perfect. There were some little bits, like niggly things, which were annoying. It had a lot of really cool references in it. But yeah, it was a good show, 100%. People should definitely watch it, especially if you're an MCU fan. I mean, why wouldn't you? How about yourself, Neil? What did you reckon?
I'm going to take a little bit of an issue with your criticism of the early show, because I thought the show was great from start to finish. I thought it only got stronger as it went on. Like you said, you didn't like the sitcom conceit that they used for the first 3 episodes. It literally was a 50s sitcom you were watching. But to me, that's what made it good. They was so very, very subtle hints at that something was wrong, and because no one knew what the show was when it came out. You know, you saw that first trailer and no one had a clue what the hell we were getting. You know?
Yeah.
I also think that Wanda and Vision as characters have been pretty poorly served by the movies so far. Obviously, we got a fair bit about them in Age of Ultron, but since then, there wasn't really enough character development for them. So I think to really buy that sort of central relationship between them, you needed those episodes of seeing, them be in love, seeing them raise a family, of seeing them really exist and how they wanted to be in this happy sheen of what Wanda creates. I think if, like you suggest, where we immediately realise it is a facade early on, yeah, you might have hooked more people who wanted to see the wider mystery. But I think these days people want to get to the mystery too quickly. What I loved was in the first episode, there was very, very few hints at the weirdness to come. There was a bit in the dinner scene where Vision's boss's wife starts saying, stop it, and it goes on a little bit too long, and it's a bit creepy. You've also got the guy who comes out of the manhole cover in the suit, surrounded by bees.
The bee man,
the bee man. And like, you're looking at these things and you're like, what the hell's that got to do with anything? And, a later episode, you had the helicopter, the buzzing noise.
Yeah,
and
no, I understand.
They slowly built their way to it. I feel if you didn't take your time building to these events and establishing the relationship, just how damn good those 2 actors were in those roles as well. Because not forgetting, they had to change their style of acting every episode as well. Overall, for me, I think, like you say, I think the finale really stuck the landing. Again, yeah, a few small niggles in it, but I feel there were more really clever little in jokes that the showrunners were playing on the Marvel audience as a whole, rather than major missteps.
So the biggest thing with the early episodes for me, I mean, I think what worked for them was the fact that it was only like 20-25 minute episodes.
Well, yeah,
where like
they were
the length of a
the
normal
sitcom format.
Yeah. So the length of a normal sitcom. So that worked for them quite now. If they hadn't, if it had gone on for that longer than that 3rd episode, it probably would have lost me. And I think I'd be interested to see the viewing figures, because I'd like to know if it lost a lot of casual sort of MCU fans or casual TV fans in general early on.
Because it wasn't what they expected.
Because it wasn't that. Because like you said, it was building sort of relationship between them and sort of building like what is going on, the mystery behind everything.
And do you think these people who like tuned
which was
out
a
just thought,
slower burn than perhaps a lot of people would have wanted?
and I argue that slower burn was needed to establish a relationship because that relationship had not been established.
I disagree. You could have done both.
Well, yeah, but then I don't think you did. I think you needed to spend your whole time on establishing that before you got to the reveal of what was going on outside of Westview.
Just a little bit more. That's all I was asking. Like, fine, work on the relationship, but just a little bit more.
But I think that's enough on the earlier episodes of WandaVision, as we are here to talk primarily about the finale of the show and how it influences the larger MCU. And rather than going through the basic plot of the show, which we're going to get to it in our way of just pulling out our favourite parts of it and what we thought worked and what we thought didn't work. So for me, the first thing that really made me chuckle when I was watching it was Jimmy Woo saying flourish and escaping from the handcuffs. Now, that's a brilliant little callback to episode 2, where the magic show, when Vision's doing his drunken flourish routine on stage. And you spotted another reference that I actually missed as well, David.
Yeah, when we first get introduced to Jimmy Woo, he does the magic trick that he learns from Ant-Man. So yeah, when he presents his card to Monica Rambeau, he does the magic trick that he learns from Ant-Man.
Okay, yeah, so that was a nice little bit of like a little bit of Jimmy Woo for us there. Now, one of the key items, shall we say, that we discover in the show is Agatha revealing the Darkhold. What is the Darkhold? Well, a quick Google lets us know that the Darkhold is a dark magic spellbook from the Hell Dimension where Doctor Strange fought Dormammu. Is it Dormammu?
Yeah,
Dormanos?
Dormammu. I've come to bargain.
So essentially, it's like the MCU's Necronomicon. It's an all-powerful book of evil spells, and it's the single most powerful book in the MCU, which we haven't really heard of till now. Although, it actually, you know what, it was briefly mentioned in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but I generally think that they're going to ignore Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah, it looks like, it does look like they're completely ignoring everything that happened in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Well, the only bit from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. The only bit from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I will mention is that there are rumours that Coulson is going to cross over back into the upcoming Secret Invasion show, and also Chloe Bennett's character, Daisy Johnson Quake, might be coming over as well. So essentially, I think what they're going to try and do is fold some of the better characters from that show, give them a bit of a retcon, and stick them in.
I didn't watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but I'm pretty. The Darkhold had a pretty massive part of the show, didn't it?
I've watched all the episodes.
It was a big storyline of it.
I think so, but honestly, nothing stuck with me. And that was the problem with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. It went season to season, kind of going from weird storyline to weird storyline and never really tying back. When it was good, it was really good. There was a couple of really stunning episodes. But unfortunately, a lot of the time...
Anyway, we're not here to talk about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Because no one's talking about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., no. So, back to the Darkhold. So, in the comics, the book was created by, and I have no idea how this is pronounced, but it's Chthon. So, I'm going to say... Chiffon. Wasn't he the villain in one of the James Bond films?
Chiffon.
Isn't that a fabric or a colour?
I don't know. Well, anyway.
Anyway, so Chiffon is the god of chaos, who, like Wanda, uses chaos magic. So this could hint or lead to the fact that we're going to get some of the Elder God storylines in the MCU, as Chiffon is an Elder God. Or it could even bring us the introduction of Mephisto, which a lot of people were speculating was going to be involved in this show as well. There was even some crazy casting rumours where people had suggested that Al Pacino was going to come in. Problem is, Mephisto is essentially the devil of the MCU, and if you're introducing the devil into this whole universe, then a lot more needs to be done to set up the rules, and if there's a devil of the MCU, then is there going to be more angelic figures? So I think they needed I think they did quite well to steer clear of that for the time being.
Yeah, because I think if you want to introduce another god character, it needs more than here's a book based on him or here's a book created from him.
Also, very early on in the episode, we get Evil Vision. Now, how do we know he's evil? I mean, he's wearing white. Surely, if you go by classic iconography in films, good guys wear white, bad guys wear black. But we know he's evil because he lovingly takes Wanda's head in his hands and then tries to crush her fucking head. Yeah,
that was quite horrifying when, like, her face was like the picture image of the Scream painting.
Of course, by Edward Munch.
Yeah, like she looked exactly like it. That's the first thing I thought of when I saw that, sort of how her mouth and her face was sort of twisting into that. It's
definitely a choice that they were going for there.
Yeah, 100%. But then when you had sort of Westview Vision, some slamming into him, and they had that great phase where, as you mentioned, was more reminiscent of Superman 3.
Yeah, with the Vision v Vision phase and laser battle. I mean, I loved it. I mean, because obviously they're exactly the same, right? So not one of them is going to probably get the upper hand over the other.
No, yeah, that was an awesome segment. Yeah.
I think when he was crushing her head, the sound of her skull cracking was what really made that like work and make that disturbing. And it was still shocking when you see evil Robot Vision, wake up at the end of the last episode. You're like, yeah, he's definitely going to be evil, just because he's all white. It just I don't
blue eyes, had that White Walker vibe.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I didn't catch that. Yeah, definitely going for a White Walker vibe. Yeah, I also liked when Wanda had to face the judgment of the town. As we know, Wanda has been controlling the townspeople and making them her little puppets in her play she's been putting on of regular life. And as Agatha points out to her, heroes don't torture people. And Agatha, in quite a nice callback to Ultron, says, I'm going to cut their strings. And she frees a few of the people, and they start begging Wanda to let them go. Or even then, begging Wanda to let them die. I mean, that woman says, I just wanted to hold my daughter. You keep her locked in her room.
Because she was given a different storyline in the TV show, where her daughter was just left and locked in her room, and she's out there as almost like a single person.
I mean, it's horrific.
Motherless, yeah. It got a bit dark. But when everyone was sort of swarming over Wanda, I kind of expected them to almost swarm her to attack her, but they were all pleading with her instead to just let them go.
Well, it's like the modern day version of, in the witch trials, isn't it? With the village people with the pitchforks running up, get the witch. And that's what they were definitely going for when channeling in like a modern day setting. Also, in Agatha's monologue here, that she also mentions that, by the way, you're more powerful than the Sorcerer Supreme. So that means Wanda is more powerful than Doctor Strange.
I mean, I think a lot of comic fans knew that, like, Wanda's one of the most powerful beings in it, isn't she? One of the more powerful
I think so.
Superheroes, Scarlet Witch. But yeah, like to have that statement out there, and we know that she's going to be involved in Doctor Strange, and to already say that she's more powerful than her, it sets up an interesting dynamic between the two of them. Who's going to be the villain?
I mean, I do like the fact that this is the first time at the end of the last episode that she's called the Scarlet Witch. I mean, like you say, from the comics, she's known as the Scarlet Witch.
So that I was a bit like, when that happened, she was like the Scarlet Witch, and I was like, yeah, but didn't we already know that she was the Scarlet Witch? It was almost like she is the Scarlet Witch kind of thing. Like that was the response they wanted, but I kind of felt like everyone already knew that in the first place.
She's never been called that though, as far as I know, in the MCU continuity so far.
But I don't know. It felt a bit strange to me. It was kind of almost like everyone.
Doctor Strange?
Like, no. Yeah, you knew she was the Scarlet Witch, so why is there this like the Scarlet Witch? Like, okay,
because she was just Wanda Maximoff before. Now she is.
No, I get
it.
I get it. I just felt it didn't land with me. That I felt like they were looking for that boom, she's the Scarlet Witch. Oh my god, sort of reaction where it kind of was just like, yeah.
I'm pretty sure if you look on Twitter, you can find people having that reaction to the episode.
Like, yeah.
One of the other polarising scenes in the finale for quite a lot of people was the revelation that Quicksilver, his real name is Ralph Boner. He said Boner.
It was Ralph Bonner, wasn't it?
Boner. No, it's Boner. She pronounces it Boner.
Cheeky.
So you get the joke.
Yeah, a lot of people were pissed off with that, weren't they?
But why? It's stupid. I don't get the point.
So you obviously people wanted it to be that X-Men crossover, or to at least have something more than it just be nothing in the end. Because why bring Evan Peters in other than to sort of troll the MCU audience and to be like, wait, you thought it was? Hey. I can see why it pissed a lot of people off. It was a big troll.
But I thought it was brilliant. But it's not his story, right? And we when she says, he in the early episode when he goes, she's recast Pietro. So we already know right there, really, it's not her real brother.
But
if it was Aaron Taylor Johnson,
I'm with you. I do kind of like that, but it was funny how they did just completely mess with people. They knew people would be coming up with all these theories, and they just was just like, "Hey, you thought that? Nah, you were wrong. It's just some kid in a basement or some kid in a loft or whatever it was."
They do that loads throughout the show, and loads more of that in this episode. But you know what? It didn't annoy me. I thought it was a funny joke.
Yeah, it didn't annoy me either. But I could see a lot of people, like diehard MCU fans, that would be pissed off with it.
But here's the thing, right? If you're getting really pissy about, you can't treat Quicksilver that way. You're mocking all the Fox X-Men stuff. Get over it, because do you honestly want to continue the Fox Marvel X-Men stuff? No. There's a couple of really good films.
X-Men's been good.
X-Men 1 and 2 were brilliant. X-Men First Class was a reinvention of the franchise, and Logan was probably the best one of all for me. Again, we're not doing an X-Men podcast.
All right, whatever. Yeah, let's go on.
We'll get off X-Men. Basically, this story didn't need the X-Men in it. It didn't need to hint at that. And if you're going to introduce the X-Men, you do it in a bigger way than having Ralph Boner be Quicksilver. I just thought it was a nice way to tie off the character. He was just this, like you say, he's just this dude
True.
who plays
But
guitar really badly in his
What I am
his
concerned
loft.
about is how are they going to include Evan Peters if he does come into the MCU as
He won't. There's no
Quicksilver?
way they'll
how,
bring him
yeah,
in.
like how can they do that now? It can't be done, surely.
They won't. They will recast the MC. I'm fully confident they will recast all the X-Men when they eventually do bring him in. So, I mean, the main crux of the episode is, as Agatha quite rightly tells her, you can save Westview or you can save your family.
Because she had that moment where she beams up and she sort of just decides to let Westview go and let everyone go because she's like, oh yeah, I have been torturing them. But then she realises that all her two boys and Vision are also disappearing at the same time as the Hex. Would you rather live in the ignorant bliss of happiness for yourself, or and torture a lot of people while doing it, or live in misery and grief, but know that you've done the right thing?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think this is the moment, wasn't it, there, where Wanda realises that, and that's the shift. Where in the previous episodes, she's ignored what the harm and all the stuff she's been causing, and just been like sweeping it over with more hexes. Here, Agatha, I think it's almost like if Agatha thinks it's a good idea, or Agatha shows her that actually she is a villain, then I think that's enough to kind of wake her up. Even though we know she's going to lose her kids and she's going to lose her husband again.
Agatha for me didn't feel like a villain. I don't know how you felt, but for me, she didn't feel like a villain of the show at all. It was almost like Wanda was the villain. And Agatha
Wanda was
sort of
definitely
just
the villain.
there, yeah. And Agatha was kind of just there to get her powers from her. Yeah, but we as an audience have been like, because we've known Wanda from the previous shows. We've got obviously a more connection with her than we do with Agatha. So we wanted her to win, obviously, in that confrontation and not have Agatha lose. But I feel like if Agatha had even got the Chaos power, would she have used it for evil purposes? She's been about since the 1600s, and she hasn't. What's she done? She hasn't done any. Like, has she done anything evil in that time period?
I think the whole point of Agatha is to introduce a different style of magic into the MCU. So when we first meet Wanda and Pietro in Age of Ultron, they get their powers from Loki's staff.
Yeah, which we see in WandaVision as well.
Then obviously we retcon that in WandaVision to see actually no, she did have powers, and that actually amplified them and unlocked them. And then obviously by unleashing all the power of grief that she had for WandaVision, and where she creates the dome over Westview, that takes her powers to the next level, which, as Agatha says, she goes, all that power, that's what drew her there. Did you catch the reference to The Incredibles in it?
I did not. There was a reference to The Incredibles?
Right before one of my favourite lines in the episode where Wanda says, boys, handle the military to Billy and Tommy, and they get a quick chance to shine. You have that sort of family shot of Vision, Wanda, and the boys stood there in fighting stance.
Power pose together.
Power pose, getting ready for the fight. So Wanda's going to go off and fight Agatha, the boys are going to take out the military, and Vision's going to fight evil White Vision.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. Was that
really
an
nice...
Incredibles one, or is that just a general, family superhero power pose?
What other film before The Incredibles have you seen a superhero family power pose?
Oh, I don't know, but I'm sure someone out there will tell us one.
No, that's the first film to do it, I'm sure of.
The Incredibles, surely there was another film before The Incredibles.
What, with a family of superheroes doing a power pose?
A family of anything sort of powerful in general. Like, it could be a family of martial artists.
No, because it's superheroes. It's the first superhero one, and that's what this is.
Right, okay.
Also, I have to say, Hayward literally tried to shoot a child. What a dick.
Yeah. That's one of WandaVision that fell short for me, is his villain in general. I didn't understand what his whole reasonings were. I mean, it was pretty cool when I've forgotten her name, the character
Darcy.
that rams in. Darcy, sorry, thank you. Where Darcy has one moment ramming into him with an ice cream truck,
and then says enjoy prison.
Yeah, like it's literally like she's on screen for 5 seconds.
Yeah, Kat Dennings making the most of her 5 seconds of screen time right there.
100%. But yeah, he's that entire villain. Him as a villain didn't work for me. It fell short. I don't know how you felt about it.
Yeah, hey, I mean, he was just your basic government. Oh, superheroes are bad guy. He didn't have anything more to that. I mean, what was his plan?
We wanted to weaponize Vision, right? So we wanted to bring Vision back as a weapon, but
I think his basic plan, like you say, he wanted
to what purpose? Really, there wasn't one.
Vision was a sentient being before, and the Vision that they bring back isn't. He's just a cold programmed robot.
Like his only sort of like method of stopping the Hex was to kill Wanda, and that was the only way of doing it. And he refused to listen to any other reasoning behind anything, and everyone else, like all the other workers and military there, were sort of just like
no one was with him, were they?
Yeah, but everyone was just sort of brainlessly going along with everything he was saying because he's the guy in charge.
Monica, Wu, and Darcy are all like, this guy's a dick. No, don't do it. Also, we have to talk about the Vision versus Vision fight and how it stops. Brilliant way. Of course they're going to talk it out and use logic because they're robots. Of course that's what they do.
Yeah, the sort of conundrum that they get, and they're like, wait, but my what was it? My program directive is to kill the Vision, and he's like, but you are the Vision. And he's like, well, wait a second.
But I'm also the Vision, but you're the Vision, and then
that was almost better than the fight where they're just chatting it out.
I mean, because it's different. You don't see it. You expect robots fighting each other, destroying like half the town, lasering people and shit like that. And no, just two robots having a chat about existence and the universe. I love the analogy they use of the boat being replaced part by part, and then was it still the original boat at the end?
Yeah, it will be the same boat if it's replaced, and if you strip it away and then recreate it, is it still the same boat? And it's like, well, it's neither.
Exactly, and then of course our Vision then convinces White Vision, Evil Vision still, but not for much longer, to let him restore his memories. As we see, Vision touches him. And then we see his blue eyes turn flash yellow quickly. So again, we're hinting at maybe stuff from Mind Stone or Wanda's magic has gone into the new Vision. But then he just buggers off.
Yeah. That analogy, though, that was also a very good way of explaining what White Vision is. Because White Vision isn't the same as
100%.
The old Vision. He's been stripped down. This is a new
just
Vision that we've got here. However, he's been given the memories of everything of the past Vision.
But then he just buggered off, and that's it. We don't see him again.
Anyone's guess as to where he's gone to.
But like you raised a good point off mic beforehand when we were discussing it, and you said, but surely if he's just had all his memories restored, he would be exactly the same as the other Vision. Yeah,
you'd think. I think because you have that analogy beforehand that sort of explains it, but then you give him his memories back, so it sort of feels like, well, hang on, if I'd been just given so let's say I died and I've been brought back to life. Mm-hmm. The first thing I'd want to go do is go and find Wanda.
Eat brains.
Go and find the person, or go and be like, I'm back, yay, sort of thing. But then he just buggers off somewhere.
Obviously, Paul Bettany's definitely, White Vision's definitely going to be back at some point, because why have him fly off and not return for the rest of the show, right? That's like, 100%. I don't think
quite
Marvel...
happy that Paul Bettany's still involved in. I think he's
from a voiceover role to being one of the best characters in it now. Yeah, I also have to mention the nice inversion of Agatha's intro scene when Wanda takes her back to when her mother tried to kill her at her witch trial. And then, Christ, we have bloody witch zombies in WandaVision. Dude, they were creepy as shit.
They were quite scary.
They look like the Crypt Keeper from Tales from the Crypt, if you remember that old show.
What rating is WandaVision? Because if I was watching that as like a 5-year-old, I'd be like, fucking hell, this is a bit frightening.
But yeah, I mean, that was a quality scene. And like Wanda's key line there, she says, no, you did this on purpose. I didn't know what I was doing. You chose to kill everyone and drain their powers and make them into weird husk zombie witches. And of course it's in this scene where we finally see Scarlet Witch's almost Magneto style helmet come out. I was like, oh yeah, there's a bit of a Fassbender helmet thing going on there.
Because we had previously in the Halloween episode where we could see her in costume and we saw the Vision in costume and the clear representations of how they looked, or like in the comic books, how like the costume was, and they were using that as the Halloween costumes, which is pretty cool. And then obviously we actually get the full Scarlet Witch costume come out finally. She's finally decided to get rid of that red trench coat and put on a decent costume for a superhero, for the character she deserves as well. She deserves a badass costume, and it did look cool.
Yeah. I mean, did you think Agatha was a little bit like the Emperor from Star Wars at one point? Just flying around, shooting powers from a thing, and then trying to suck the life force out of the person she's fighting?
So I didn't, but like we said, we chatted beforehand, and since you've said that, I can see it. Like, I can see how you can see the Emperor in it.
Yeah, I mean, it's the line she said. She's like, yes, give me all of it. It's like, that's pretty much young Skywalker.
Yeah.
Strike me down. Then you did have a little bit of a problem, though, with the way Agatha is defeated by Wanda. Tell me more.
So we established in the previous episode that the runes on the walls, only the person who casts those runes is able to cast magic, and everyone else that can cast magic can't. I was fine with that, but what really bugged me was that they showed that scene again in the previously on WandaVision section. That properly annoyed me, because the second I saw that, I was like, well, that's obviously how she's going to beat her, because why would you show that scene as the previously on. Otherwise, that it did annoy me because it ruined exactly how I knew from that scene on how Wanda was going to do it, and it ruined that fight ending altogether.
I think because you watch these type of shows a lot and you're very familiar with the workings of TV. I think if you're average viewer and maybe not a massive MCU fan who's seen a lot of the other material, you need these recap things to remind people what happened in the previous episode. And the whole point of recaps are to remind people of stuff that happened in previous episodes that is going to be important in the upcoming one. Just because you made the links and goes, oh, that's how she's going to do it. Not everyone's going to make that link.
I felt like you didn't need it. Just take it out altogether. Don't have that section at the very beginning of the film. And then just have him at the end. No. Just have it at the end. And then people could be like, oh, she's using the same thing as what she did previously. You don't need reminding of it. It was last week.
I think you do.
It was last week. I don't need reminding of something that happened last week.
Mate, you probably can't remember what happened 10 seconds ago.
I can't. What were we chatting about?
Exactly. I think the reason for the previously on bits, and this is for every show, not just this one, is to tell the audience, right, this plot point or from a previous episode, this is going to be important in the next one. I think if I can say you're wrong in the nicest possible way, because you watch enough content like this and know how these shows work, you've put 2 and 2 together to make 4.
In doing it, it completely spoils it for you. I mean,
that's down to you. Okay, you're too clever, David. You're too clever. No. You've ruined it yourself. It's all your own fault. Tough shit.
I cannot have been. It was so obvious. Surely you worked that out as well.
No, I didn't. I wasn't thinking about, because I wasn't actively thinking about it. I was enjoying it. I was like, on the first watch through of a show like this, all surface value. I'm just enjoying it. I'm just watching it. Going, oh yeah. Oh, cool, that's how she beat her. Oh, and I didn't have a problem with it because she used a lesson from Agatha against her. She literally says to her, oh, I learned this from you, as she does it.
Yeah, but it just bugged me. It just really bugged me that they showed it at the beginning because I knew exactly how it was going to happen then, and it could have just spoiled the rest of the episode.
Okay, well, I think that's just you being a little girl about it, if I'm going to be completely honest.
No, I can't be the only one.
Something that I guessed because I'm so clever.
It's nothing to do with like figuring it out or cleverness. It's just showing it in the first place. It just makes it so obvious. Like, why there would be no other reason to have shown it.
But that's why you show stuff in previously on, to tell people what's coming up in that episode.
Hang on a sec. Would you want previously on something would you have wanted the snap to be ruined in Infinity War by having previously on? This is how he's going to do it.
No, because it's a movie, not a TV show.
Yeah, but
different format.
You know what I'm saying? It's the same sort of thing.
Not every TV show does it.
A big boss fight ending. This is like having a previously on. This is how a big boss fight's going to end. They're going to use this exact thing because we told you about it here. But then we're going to hope you've forgotten about it throughout the episode, and then here it is.
Mate, do you know what people's attention spans is like these days? You have to remind people of stuff.
Mate, I've got the worst. I've got such a bad attention span.
Clearly, you've got a bad attention span because apparently all you could think about for the rest of the episode was, you put something together from a credit and it ruined it. You just said it ruined it for you. It ruined the fight.
No, because I knew how it was going to end.
Oh, shit. Oh, sorry, I just coughed there.
You knew how it was going to end. Right,
I think we've wasted enough time on your hang-ups. I'm going to say one thing I did get from Scarlet Witch's big reveal in this one was, didn't this kind of remind you of the Dark Phoenix storyline from X-Men? But, just done right.
Well, this is where you had a problem with it. This is more your problems with the Dark Phoenix storylines than anything else.
Well, I mean, the Dark Phoenix storyline's never been done right, ever, and the same twat screwed it up twice. But I'm going to get onto that on another rant one day. We are going to do a little rant about the X-Men universe.
Calling him a twat is a bit harsh. But
you take one of the best X-Men storylines and you screw it up on a big screen. And then you get a chance 10 years later, and not only do you get to screw it up by writing it wrong again, you screw it up by directing it really shittly as well. No. But to me, I was watching this, and there was a lot of things in common. You've got this, woman who's suddenly got this amazing godlike power, but she's told, but by the way, you're going to kill everyone and destroy the whole world and all of existence. And she's like, well, no, I'm not. So that is exactly the same basic storyline as Dark Phoenix. Except we actually gave a shit about Wanda because we've had the previous episodes and films building up her character to this point. I mean, she feels like a massive deal now, doesn't she?
Yeah. I mean, you can certainly feel her presence in the MCU more than ever.
You have Agatha's chilling last words before she defeats her, and she says, You're going to destroy everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a whole chapter in the Book of the Damned about you. So, not you personally, David, but, Wanda. I love how we finish off with Agatha as well for the time being, and I say time being because they're clearly hinting that we're going to come back. Her punishment is to be trapped in Westview as Agnes, the nosy neighbour. And she says, well, if I need you, I know where to find you. And then she wipes her, and then she says, right, I'll be seeing you, Agnes. Not if I see you first. Clearly, Agatha's coming back. And I think this leads on to what you said earlier.
Like I said, I didn't see Agnes as the villain in the show, really at all. I felt like she was just someone that wanted to get Wanda's powers, and we saw her as a villain because we've got this established connection with Wanda, and we didn't want her to take her powers. So I think if Agnes comes back, I don't think she'll be a villain or even necessarily an evil character. I think she's going to be sort of on the same side as maybe the rest of the Avengers, or maybe somebody that they come to for information here and there, little tidbits. Maybe someone that pulls the strings in certain ways to get stuff to do other things. But I think with a little bit of research, we've known from the comics that she is a sort of a mentor figure to Wanda. So that's definitely, I mean, she's already been teaching her some things like the runes that we've...
Yeah, she's definitely learned from her already. I think, Catherine Hahn gave a great performance as Agatha/Agnes, and I definitely think we'll be seeing her again in the MCU.
She pretty much smashes a lot of things that she's doing, but she's always sort of flies under the radar in a lot of films that she's in. You kind of almost forget that she's in them, but she's really good in a lot of stuff.
I remember recently she's in Parks and Rec later on as a campaign manager, and again, she's just brilliant in that. I mean, MVP. I mean, if these shows got any kinds of awards nominations, you'd have Catherine Hahn down as Best Supporting Actress, and you'd have Olsen down, hands down, as Best Actress, I think, in these type of shows. But, genre shows never get nominated for awards, so that's probably not going to happen. Although Marvel do have a shitload of money, so you never know. They might start bribing the right people. Not that I'm insinuating that's how Hollywood works.
Mm.
So now we move on to pretty much the finale of the show, and as we've established, Wanda now realises that she has to free the people of Westview because she has inadvertently been torturing them. But by doing so, she's going to lose her children and Vision, who she created from nothingness herself. Now, we slowly see this red wave that was surrounding Westview slowly permeate away, with the whole town slowly coming back to normal. And it's just heartbreaking when you get back to the house and you see them change back into their regular mum and dad clothes. She takes the children upstairs, makes them get in bed, tells them to go to sleep. And I was like, I know this is supposed to be heartbreaking, but she's essentially murdering her children right here.
Yeah. She knows she's got to let them go.
Yeah, because they don't exist. They're not
really
real.
Sad. When she's saying goodbye to her kids, and when she's saying goodbye to Vision, that is, truly heartbreaking. I mean, that landed for me.
That line in this episode was when he says, "What am I?" and she goes, "You are my sadness and my hope."
Yeah.
And then his second to last line is when he says, "Who knows what I might be next."
Yeah, man, it was beautiful. I mean, that saying, hinting that this version of Vision could be coming back. But yeah, that really stuck its landing for me, and I say that because when Vision died in Infinity War, and when she had to kill him. He got brought back, and then she had to watch him die again. That didn't land for me. A minute later. That death didn't land for me because I felt like the relationship kind of came out of nowhere as well in it, and you hadn't really established this love connection between them that well. So when he died, I'm like, oh, okay, that's sad, and it was sad how it had to be done, but it wasn't like, oh, man. Which this was really like, it was an emotional. It really tugged on the strings. Definitely.
And that's what makes this show so good, because it's taken two smaller side characters, fleshed them out really well. And I mean, I bet you next time you watch Endgame, or
if I watch it now, I'm going to see it in a whole other light. Yeah, you'll see it in a whole other light.
And bizarrely, it makes me want to go back and rewatch Age of Ultron now, just because I want to see how they was introduced and all the stuff with them and that. So yeah.
When she's also saying goodbye to Vision, and the fact that Vision's dealing with identity crisis issues, essentially. I mean, a lot of people have that in general. I mean, obviously he's this sentient being that was created out of nothing, created out of her love and sadness for him, her grief. That in itself is quite a beautiful thing, that Vision's dealing with troubles of his identity, which a lot of people have in their everyday lives. They don't understand who they are, what they are. They could be gay, they could be living like trans lives, anything like that. And I feel like that hit well.
I think some of the best superhero shows, just like classic sci-fi was used as an analogy for the Cold War. I mean, you look at Bryan Singer's work on X-Men, and there's a thesis that he treated the original X-Men films as being a mutant was like being gay. So he really, and a lot of the best, there's always that second subtext and undercurrent in some of the best fantasy and sci-fi.
It worked. It worked really well here.
Well, I mean, let's face it, at the end of the day, WandaVision was an almost 9-hour show about suffering, death and grief.
Yeah.
And that's not, on paper, that's not really going to sell it to people, is it? But that's what we got. And like you say, I think if you look online, the response from a lot of people, they've really been affected by this show, and it's really struck a chord with many, many people. And just for that, let alone it being a great show in its own right, Marvel have got to be commended for. I mean, it's an amazing show.
It's a beautiful thing, really, because it shows that people out there that are going through these depression, it's so easy to feel alone. When something like this comes out, it's like, well, you're not,
Yeah, yeah.
Because Wanda created this whole world for herself because she was so alone.
Coming on from that now, I mean, like I say, that essentially wraps up the show. And Wanda walks through the town, and all the townspeople still are looking at her like they want to stab her with pitchforks and burn her at the stake. She, has a little chat with Monica. Monica's like, "No, it's okay. You're okay now. I don't hate you." Probably because you gave her fucking superpowers now. So Monica's going to be...
She's all right with it.
Monica's come out of this pretty well. And then she flies off, and that's our end credits. But before we get to the obvious end credits and mid-credit scenes, I've got a few more little things just to tie up there. I mean, for me now, I honestly think Wanda is probably one of the most powerful and one of easily the best female character in the MCU right now. I mean, she's got god-level powers, and we're now more invested in her more than any of the other female characters, because she's the only female character that's had 9 hours of backstory now.
Yeah, she's been properly fleshed out.
But I think this is partly due to you've got such a great actress there in Elizabeth Olsen. I mean, you've got great actresses wasted in the MCU in other roles. Natalie Portman in Thor barely had anything to do than be the love interest. Although it looks like they are going to fix that with Thor Love and Thunder, with her becoming the female Thor. And I mean, I'm pretty sure Natalie Portman wouldn't have returned to the role just to be Hemsworth's girlfriend again. So they've obviously got something good. And normally I would be a bit sus about changing a male character to the film. It's been established in the comics continuity, and also it's been done by Taika Waititi. And at the minute, the man can do no wrong, so I've got full confidence in it that it's going to be awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't have a problem with it at all. Yeah.
With Captain Marvel, again, we haven't really seen much of Captain Marvel yet, because she's only had the one film, and that was an origin film. So most of that film was just setting up who she is and how she got her powers.
So talking about Wanda and Captain Marvel, when you look at the most powerful characters that we've currently been established in the MCU, Captain Marvel and Wanda are probably one of the two most powerful, right? But they've both, aside from Wanda now, been given not a lot to work with, right? Captain Marvel wasn't the best film, and now what? So what I'm saying is it's about time that a female character, a female superhero, is really being given the time in something like this. She's being fleshed out properly, and it's a shame that Black Widow is having her prequel story and her character being fleshed out after she's already died. That's a real shame.
I think it's more a problem of trying to cram so many characters into these Avengers team-up films and not have these characters have their own films beforehand. So you don't care as much about them. Like I said, when Scarlet bites the big one in Endgame, I wasn't that fussed, because I was like, well, okay.
You weren't that fussed? I thought that was quite heartbreaking.
I thought Thanos killing Gamora, his daughter, was more upsetting and heartbreaking than Black Widow's death.
They were both done in completely different ways, weren't they?
I think if we'd had a Black Widow solo film before the events of Endgame, then definitely her death would have meant a lot more, because we would have had that extra couple of hours to get to know her backstory, which has always only been hinted at, and we never really got that full explanation. Now, and the big problem with that is, at the end of the day, you've got these god-level powers with, like you say, Captain Marvel and now Wanda, and Natasha's just a good assassin. She's not on the same playing field as them, no matter how good she is at fighting.
But not from a power perspective, no. But she can, so, from a character perspective, and the time that's been given, she with her backstory as well, which still is clouded in mystery, which hopefully is going to get fixed in Black Widow. she's on the same level from a character standpoint, or should be.
I don't think so. The biggest problem I've got with Black Widow, and it's probably going to be excellent because I like all the actors in it. I like the idea of it, but I don't need the film because what happens is if the film's a big success and it's really good, there'll be a clambering. Oh look, we got the multiverse. Let's bring her back, and you can't bring her back. She has to stay dead. We can't.
We don't know what they're going to do with it yet. So let's see let's see what they do with it. See where they take it.
But wouldn't you be pissed off if they invalidate her death? If they when she's back now?
And when you invalidate her death in anything, it annoys me. I mean, the fact that fucking Gandalf came back in the Lord of the Rings kind of pissed me off. I felt like that was no need.
Oh right, well that's a rant for another day.
Yeah, okay.
I think the best we can hope for from Black Widow is that it sets up. I believe they're hinting that Florence Pugh's character is her sister in it, and she's a brilliant young actress. So I would expect maybe you use that film to set her character up in the MCU, and then bring her into like the later iterations of the Avengers.
That's probably like what they're trying to do. But we've diverted again, Neil. We've gone off on a tangent.
We were still on about powerful women in the MCU and how Wanda is probably the most powerful now. But the one other one, there's still a few more I need to mention. With Black Panther 2 now, there are the rumours that Shuri is going to take over as Black Panther, which I believe from the comics does happen. I think that's going to be a great, strong, powerful character that they're going to have out there soon.
Yeah, she was one of the best characters in
exactly.
In one of the best MCU standalone films as well. I think it probably is the best one, right? As a standalone film, Black Panther is probably the best one.
Well, so make her like Queen of Wakanda, and she gets all the cool fighting skills by having a bit of the herb, and then also
having a bit of the herb.
Or what the flowers, whatever the hell they was.
No. It's just how
it totally was her. Yeah. So you have that, and then also she's a genius. She literally fixed Vision again in the old one. So I mean, Shuri as Black Panther, I think is the way to go forward in that one. But I tell you, someone who, and I still don't hold out much hope for her. Poor Rachel McAdams, who is again one of the best actresses around. Put her in a comedy, she's amazing. Put her in drama, she's great.
Underutilized. Like in
Doctor Strange.
Doctor Strange, yeah, man. It's like to the fact that people probably would have forgotten that she was even in it, even in the MCU at all as a character.
The only reason I remember she's in it because I was like, oh, that's Rachel McAdams. She's really good, and she's here as the ex-girlfriend who doesn't really do anything except tell him he's a dick a couple of times, and she's completely underused. And again, you have this problem is that because she doesn't have any powers, she's not. I can't see the point in having her in the story. I mean, she was completely underused, and unfortunately, I don't see how you can improve her role or give her something more to do in the next Doctor Strange films. So I think that rounds off our little chat there about the powerful women in the MCU.
Yeah.
But the one thing I have to get on to, as before we get to the end credit scene, was we still hadn't had the big cameo. We still hadn't had this big actor that Bettany was tweeting about the week before that he couldn't work. He totally trolled everyone, man. That was brilliant.
So wait, so what did he tweet? What did he tweet? Tell people.
So yeah, Bettany basically sent an interview prior to the other week's episode that in the final episode there was another massive cameo with a talented actor, a great actor that he's always wanted to work with. Yeah, he was totally trolling this dude. That was him.
Yeah, he was working with himself, yeah.
That was some god-level trolling by Mr. Bettany right there. That was amazing. But amazingly, but not surprisingly, you go online, oh, where's the cameo? Where was this? I was expecting A, B, C, and D. And I was like, no, that's brilliant because the show was so good at what it did. And
the
do you know what?
Internet's the worst in some places.
But that's what I thought. As I was watching the show, I was thinking, oh, there's less time. Okay, where's the big cameo going to be? And there wasn't one. And as it was getting closer and closer to the end, I was like, do you know what? The show doesn't need it. The showrunners are so confident in the material they have and the story they're telling. It doesn't need a big guest star to pop in for one scene to set up something else. You can do that in the end credits. And as we said, we got to the end credits. But first, before we get to that end credits bit, there's a few other little loose ends to tie up. What was the point of the fake adverts?
Yeah, like the Hydra one wasn't there? There was a sword one, there was a Nexus one.
There was a Stark toaster.
Stark, yeah. I think they were all points from her past, weren't they? So Hydra, obvious one. Stark, the bomb. Sword, what she's dealing with now. The Nexus one was the one that was a bit confusing, and I did a little bit of digging online for that.
Pray tell more.
So what it could be is the Nexus is it's like the Nexus of all realities, a cross-dimensional gateway that provides ways to travel between all possible realities. So
a bit like the Bifrost.
Yeah, and it also sounds like what could be used in Multiverse of Madness, right?
Okay.
And it's also like there are Nexus beings, and they all have the ability to sort of affect probability and like maybe even like the future. Yeah. So Scarlet Witch could be. Scarlet Bitch is one of these beings.
Scarlet Bitch, did you just say?
I think I did. So Scarlet Witch, she is one of these beings, and but also Nexus was mentioned in Age of Ultron. So in Age of Ultron, Nexus is the internet hub in Oslo where Tony Stark visits whilst he's tracking Ultron whilst he's attempting to get the nuclear codes. So
I did not know
when
that.
Stark arrives at Nexus, he finds Jarvis, who obviously is the Vision, who has survived Ultron's attacks by scattering himself into the internet. So perhaps that's what they're referencing, or perhaps they're referencing what's to come with Nexus. Who knows? But that whole advert was a depression advert as well, which fits perfectly with the show.
One of the early theories was, as we kept seeing the same two actors in these fake adverts, that those actors were actually going to be her parents. But when we got the flashback episodes, no, different actors. So absolutely no point to it being the same two people. But the other thread that needs closing, who is Jimmy Woo's friend Cliff?
Yeah. So
because they make such a deal out of it. There's a troll. Yeah. There's a troll early on. He says to him, "Can you get here within the hour?" I was like, "Oh, so who's Cliff?"
Yeah, and then no one turns up as well.
Well, but also a lot of people misheard that. So I put the subtitles on just to make sure it's Cliff, because people apparently thought he said Clint and thought Hawkeye was going to turn up.
Okay.
But seriously, what's the dude with some arrows going to do against fucking Wanda and some witches, man? That's literally the worst person you could have called in the situation. Doctor Strange, Captain Marvel, yeah, they'd be able to sort some shit out. Oh yeah, here's some dude with some arrows that can't even probably get through the Wanda's energy wall. So yeah, thankfully it wasn't Hawkeye.
Yeah, no, it was Cliff. So I did a little bit of digging. So Cliff Randall, who was apparently he's a member of an alien race called the Collective Intelligence, currently working as a sleeper agent for the FBI. Could be him, apparently, or it could be something else entirely. I don't know. That was sort of a thread that was left like, well, who is this guy? Who did they call when no one turned up as well? So it was a bit like, it was almost like, why put it in the show? But it's obviously going to have something to do with the future. So otherwise they wouldn't have included it. Or it could be a plot thread that they just cut altogether because they've done it with quite a few in the past, haven't they?
I'm just going to cut that. I'm just going to cut that last comment as well because that was pointless.
Hey, they have cut like plot threads.
Not in that. They would know. There's no way they would have that scene in the show if it's not leading to something. I reckon you say alien race. I reckon they're probably setting something up for Secret Invasion. And the last thread, what happened to B-Man? The internet needs closure. Remember the guy came.
I remember B-Man coming out of the sewers.
I mean, I think we joke here because, like I say, he was the first random thing. One of the first random things we see in a thing where this dude just comes out of the sewer in a spacesuit and looks around, and then Wanda rewinds him and gets rid of him. Then when we finally get episode 4, where we see that he's actually a sword agent working his way through the tunnels under the ground, and then he turns into the dude.
Yeah, I think
everyone
Wanda
was like, B-Man.
Yeah, I think B-Man was cut from the show. Wanda just didn't want him. He cut him from the show. She was cut quicker than Gina Carano from The Mandalorian.
So that pretty much wraps up all our thoughts on the show, except, of course, this being a Marvel production, there's a mid-credit scene and there's a post-credit scene. So, our mid-credit scene, we see Monica Rambeau getting asked to go into the theatre of the town, where a sword agent says, "Oh, by the way, I have a message from an old friend of your mother's." And then the sword agent reveals to herself to be a Skrull. Obviously, old friend of her mother, we're clearly referring to Captain Marvel, or are we referring to Nick Fury? And as we know, Nick Fury has the Secret Invasion show on the way alongside Ben Mendelsohn, who's going to be reprising his role as well from Captain Marvel. So I think for sure you're definitely going to see Monica Rambeau as... Now, how many different names has she got, David?
3, I think. 3 or 4.
I knew Photon. I knew where
Monica
I heard
Rambeau,
she was called...
Captain Marvel was one of them. Photon, Pulsar, and Spectrum. Now, I thought she was Spectrum, but you thought Photon, right?
You got to your judgment on that by what she was wearing from outfits, which is more research than I've done on that one. But she's clearly going to be in Secret Invasion, I'd wager, I guess, and also definitely going to crop up in Captain Marvel too, and be like, "Hey, Captain Marvel, remember me? I was a little girl in the first film, and now I've got super god powers just like you."
Yeah,
Cool.
it was nice. I quite liked that end credit scene where it's teasing what's happening, which we were like. It was very much back to like the old style mid credit scenes where you had like from Iron Man 1 and 2 and all that sort of stuff, where it was setting up for bigger things in the future.
I think the actress who played Monica Rambeau did a really good job with very little in the show. I mean, she basically got a superhero origin story in a TV show as a side character, and now she's probably going to be a good supporting character.
So even some of her small quirks that she had as a character, she was taken from the child actress that played Monica Rambeau in
Captain Marvel.
Captain Marvel, right? So
Yeah.
So even like how she was sort of smiling and grimacing and stuff like that was all what the child actor did, and she sort of copied it perfectly.
Well, that's what good actors do, my friend. That's what good actors do.
It was good. She's done it. She's done well.
And now that brings us to the end credits sting. So we cut to the mountains, which definitely looks like it's in Canada. We see a nice log cabin, and we see Wanda sitting alone outside in the middle of nowhere. She's making herself a nice cup of tea, and then the camera slowly drifts around. And we're going to get that reveal, David. We're finally going to see what this cameo is. I mean, at this point, people would bet their houses on, Doctor Strange is totally going to be chilling in the room and like giving her information and stuff.
Yeah.
And no, we get a big fuck you again, and it's actually Wanda herself doing that whole weird transmutation thing that Doctor Strange does, and she's
It's exoform,
making herself
isn't it? Something like that.
Ooh,
Exoform.
use clever words. Cool. Yeah,
Something like that. That's
Ectoform,
what
then.
it's called, isn't it?
I don't know. So she's basically doing ectoform, if that's right. If it's not, it's totally David's fault. And she's making herself a cup of tea and doing some ectoform at the same time, while reading up on the Darkhold. So again, no big cameo. The big cameo is Wanda again. But the very last part of the sting is we hear her kids crying out for her. Now, how can this be? Her kids were fictional that she made herself. How can they exist somewhere else outside of Westview? Or could this be the Darkhold already manipulating Wanda and slowly turning her evil again? What do you think, David?
It could be a lot of things. It could be her trying to even bring them back out of, like, by sort of recreating them without the Hex. So we learned from Agatha that Wanda doesn't know anything about her powers. She's uneducated. She needs to learn these things. And that there could potentially be a way of having saved them if she'd have known what she was doing. So I think that might be also what she's trying to do. She might be trying to just educate herself and try and bring them back. The whole morality side of that is crazy. But anyway, that could be also potentially what they're trying to do. But yeah, I think this book is definitely going to corrupt her in some way. And in Doctor Strange, which we know she's in the Multiverse of Madness, she's probably going to be the villain, or there's definitely going to be some sort of power problem between them. The fact that she's even using this book, which Doctor Strange is going to be like, that's a bad book, you probably shouldn't be using that book, and there's going to be a fight probably between them just because she's using this book.
I mean, I'm really, really looking forward to Doctor Strange a lot more now. I think the original director Scott Derrickson actually quit over issues with Marvel, and as I said, he did Doctor Strange 1.
Doctor Strange does seem to be the Marvel film that they're setting up more than any other film.
Well, I don't know.
Out of the whole Phase 4 films.
I think this comes along to like the thing with Spider-Man, because I think both Spider-Man 3, which again is a co-production with Sony, but Marvel, I think, are setting up their multiverse, and I think Sony are trying to set up theirs, like we mentioned in the last podcast. I think getting Sam Raimi in to be the director of Doctor Strange 2, if you want a horror inflicted, because I mean, a lot of people remember Sam Raimi as director of the original Spider-Man trilogy. 1 was really good, 2 was amazing, 3 was pretty bad. And then Sam Raimi didn't do much bar that Oz film with James Franco a few years ago. But a lot of people forget Sam Raimi did the Evil Dead films. What was the Evil Dead films about again? Oh, a evil spellbook called the Necromonicon, bound of blood, made with human flesh, where if you read aloud from it, the Deadites would come and loads of horrible shit would happen. Mm-hmm. This is the perfect guy to get in to do a book, admittedly in a much more PG-13 rating, where there's an evil book where people read it and they get corrupted. I mean, if I do not see Evil Dead-style crash zooms in the Multiverse of Madness and demonic voices that are just horrific and terrifying, and of course, where would you be without a Sam Raimi horror film, without a token Bruce Campbell cameo? I mean, dude, you could even have the Necromonicon appear in like a witch's cave somewhere in this film and just have it there on the shelf. Or you could have like a chainsaw sitting there, or someone needs
Just
to get
something,
chainsaws.
yeah. Just have a chainsaw up anywhere in the background. That'll do it.
The one signature directorial flourish that I know we're definitely going to see from Sam Raimi, bar his Crash Zooms, is every single one of his films, he always puts in his 1973 Oldsmobile Delta 88 car, which is the iconic car driven by Ash in Evil Dead films. It has literally been in almost every film of his professional career. So this old car is definitely going to turn up in this film at some point. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see Wanda use it to smash someone again, like she did in the finale today. So that takes us to the end of our longer than anticipated WandaVision mini spoiler podcast. But yeah, I mean, I was a big fan of the show, and I think Marvel really delivered on this. Clearly, it's been a lot of setup for Doctor Strange 2 and potentially Secret Invasion and some of the other MCU shows, as well as Captain Marvel 2. But I mean, if Falcon and the Winter Soldier, if Loki and the forthcoming shows later down the line, such as Moon Knight, Miss Marvel, are anything as good as this quality, then Marvel have just sewn up everyone's subscriptions throughout the next 10 years, right?
Yeah, man, really enjoyed the show. It was a good one. Definitely think it was a tale of two halves for me, but it was really good. They stuck the landing, like you mentioned.
So, to take a line from WandaVision itself, we're going to be back in 2 weeks' time with our regularly scheduled programming on the next episode of We Needed Roads. See you next time.
Bye-bye.
We Needed Roads.